got some symmetry in our first 2 days of week number 2. Both started with a unfortunately failed attempt at a reverse sweep. Kudos to FM. I thought they played very valiantly when they swapped over to their comfortable composition, but Zero eventually find their footing yet again, deny that, and most likely eliminate FM from playoff contention. That's only one of the 2 matches that had quite a stakes to it, though. Now we move into EUPHORIA versus JNGK. And the stakes are similarly high. I mean, JNGK could lock their playoffs here and now, and EUPHORIA could lock being out of playoffs here and now if they don't pick up a win.
Yeah, this is a must-win situation for EUPHORIA to keep them, just in the hunt, right? And not a foregone conclusion either that if a victory puts them into conversation. As we get into EUPHORIA versus JNGK, and I think the interesting thing here from EUPHORIA is what a strange team this is. The reverse sweep that they almost had, or that 5 mapper they almost had, it wasn't a reverse sweep because it was 1-1-1-1, was a big kind of an issue in that they ran a lot of Sunjin Doofus, which didn't look so great. But as we look at, of course, the match preview stepping in, yeah, JNGK for them, the other thing here is that they don't want to have to, worry about dealing with Dreamers on their way into playoffs, right?
Yeah.
That's going to be a very difficult one too. So getting a chance here would be, or getting a win here would be ideal for them.
Yeah, their situation is favorable for a number of reasons. Not only can they lock by just winning, but even if they lose, there are some worlds where they could even get some help potentially and still squeeze into playoffs. EUPHORIA, you called them odd, LaFawn. What am I looking at?
Well, you're looking at.
What am I Why? Okay, first off, why is Heesung's selected hero Genji when he's a tank player? Like a primarily tank player.
Yeah.
Secondly, why has Sunjin now swapped over to support? He's a DPS player. He won Contenders NA last season on Wisp playing DPS. He started on tank, trying to play the Doomfist. It didn't work at all, and now he's in support.
Well, the other thing
What's going on?
The other thing too is he role swapped to DPS in those maps with EUPHORIA, and won the maps where he was playing DPS.
Truly bizarre. Truly bizarre. Thankfully, JNGK brings some stability. RK Spint, Pressure off, and Tamper. I've really been liking how Pressure and Spint, honestly, Spint has looked pretty insane this season on Genji and such. Off, of course, a phenomenal Ana. We don't see Ana a ton in this matter, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. Man, I just can't get over those rolls for EUPHORIA. I'm gonna go to bed tonight, and they're gonna be in either my dreams or my nightmares.
No, it's gonna be nightmares no matter what, because the other nightmare is that they succeed with that role swapping.
Oh man, not exactly a positive Polly, are you there? I guess that's my job. I'm not doing great at it right now. We'll see how things go when we get to Busan. Again, first map control is always the pre-selected map.
Yeah,
and then from there on, it's loser's pick.
The step on Busan makes Sunjin on support a little bit more sense. I would expect Illari as kind of the setup. It's not. I mean, we've seen already in multiple seasons now of Overwatch where the new support comes out. It's a really strong flex option. DPS players start off on her, then on the support, and then it rolls over where the flex supports kind of come back up to scratch. Right? It was with Kiriko. We saw some DPS players make that switch, and now Illari as well. Which even more so, I think, than Kiriko makes sense for a DPS player to play, because of how hit scan oriented she is. There aren't aside from Ana, sometimes there aren't any other hit scan support players or support characters.
That being said, we don't see Illari on control super often. It's not unplayable, but normally you want to have a Lucio in the mix with, something that pumps out a ton of healing, like a Baptiste or an Ana, or,
it'd be very funny if Sunjin. It'd be very funny if Sunjin plays.
And he's on the back. All right.
Okay. Well.
All right. I'm gonna stop trying to ascribe logic to it. Truly. This team, by the way, who've swapped their DPS to support, have 3 support players that aren't Sunjin. Anyways, We're going to start off with the Reinhardt here. That's something we've seen Heesung use quite a bit. A couple teams have tried to sneak that in. We just saw it from Docs. Didn't work quite well for them. We'll see how EUPHORIA pull it off as we go on to our first map of the night in this second series.
Interesting that we're seeing the, I mean, just for JNGK, this is not a surprise, right? This is what they like to run a lot of the time. That's a lot of damage being rolled in onto Pressure.
He is handling it, though. Minute, not so much. Already immortality field used. EUPHORIA have to be careful how they handle this engagement now. You can see they want to disengage. Spin trying to not give them much of an option to. Really just hounding them. EUPHORIA fully on the back foot with a Reinhardt comp. That's not what you want at all. And RK eventually, yeah, the pressure overwhelms.
Right. And I mean, this is the problem with the Reinhardt that we've seen, this kind of mirror matchup, is that you can't do two things, right? You can't do two things at the same time. Pressure is holding space as well as dealing damage, while Heesung is doing one or the other. On top of that, because Minute, can't really get in, despite the beam going through the javelin spin, it's not enough to go against the armor, right? And so it just opens up more value for Spin to kind of get in over the top.
Ant Matrix from each side here. Neither one finding much purchase on the enemy team. Here comes an artillery strike from RK. Now that's a grouped up team. He could get a lot of damage, quite a bit of splash at the very least. EUPHORIA forced to use their immortality field yet again. Sunjin survives though, and Pressure can't quite withstand it this time around. JNGK are eventually folding. They get a 45 and some change percentage, but EUPHORIA get the flip.
Photon Barrier is so strong. It is so strong. The difference really was the fact that RK couldn't do anything through the barrier. I mean, Spit, too, kept in the periphery, while the rest of EUPHORIA does not have that issue. That's why we're seeing so much success with the Symmetra in a couple of these fights.
JNGK have to be careful now. This entry is very difficult for them. Spin to open up with a blade here could at least force the sound barrier, but then you need a way to keep that momentum. JNGK just trying to force EUPHORIA back. Okay, here comes Aristerd. One caught in it. A blade now out, but the beat doesn't find its way in a minute before he falls. Both offensive tools have been used for JNGK, though, so they are a player up, but they need to keep EUPHORIA away from them. They can't let Docs get a lot of splash damage. An Ant Matrix, too, makes things more difficult, but Sunjin falls. It's traded in kind. Good work from JNGK, and they get the flip mid-fight.
I mean, expensive, but, winning that is the important part for JNGK. Also, a nice play by Pressure. The Javelin spin onto Sierra right as he's transforming means that RK gets the first damage on the, on the Ant Matrix onto the opposing Bastion, in fact, and, Sierra just doesn't have time to set up. That being said, very expensive from JNGK. Look for Teleport Shatter here.
There it is. I mean, it lays down one. Oh, what a boop! Displaced, getting pressure instead of RK. Spin still falling, though. JNGK, one boop is not enough for them to win this fight. And the artillery strike doesn't find much of anything. Yeah, JNGK, they'll hold on for a couple more measly percentage here, but still need to win one more fight to take the round.
Also cheap for EUPHORIA, right? The truth is that, Shatter, you struggle to get eliminations with Shatter in sort of this setup. Getting one is a big deal. EUPHORIA do that. Now they're going to have the Photon Barrier. We saw how successful that was as well in the last engagement, or the last time it was up, rather.
It makes RK's job very difficult. You rely on that Bastion for the high output damage on the configuration assault. Here it comes. Already getting into the shield. Wow, no Photon Barrier necessary. RK just oversteps his bounds.
Yeah.
And gets deleted.
And that means that last fight comes in, Minute will have a Photon Barrier, and that feels like a death sentence for JNGK. Even the fact that they have the Ant Matrix just gets nullified. So much of that gets nullified, whereas EUPHORIA will not have that issue. Sunjin setting up with an Ant Matrix here, you feel that he's going to just have the default advantage as a result. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, there's that Ant Matrix. JNGK at least have quite a bit of cover. They don't have to force into this Matrix, but it does buy more time. Their own Matrix used as well. Neither team finding much value out of it. Spin will at least go down to the point, try to trigger overtime here. Sierra in some trouble. A sound barrier to keep this moving, but it's answered in kind. EUPHORIA now trying to turn the tides, but will lose the point mid-fight here. Oh, and they lose Sunjin too. That's worst case scenario. Now EUPHORIA just have no way back into this fight. They'll simply take too much damage trying to come back through this choke point.
And that also is a big problem, because with the Dragon Blade coming online here in the last moments, you're not even going to touch. It's dusted. They
Wow.
don't even need it.
What a Terra Surge from Pressure,
Yeah.
finding Sunjin isolated like that.
Also, I mean, from Euphoria, the other issue is that they're just too itchy to take that fight, right? I mean, not willing to redeploy or relocate on the map when they don't need to engage. When the team is running at you, right, with a sound barrier, exit stage left and come back in with your sound barrier later. Instead, they try and take a head-to-head fight. And just don't end up getting any eliminations. They're always in a disadvantaged position, and JNGK punished them for it.
Solid start for JNGK on their road to keep their playoffs, or well, to lock in their playoffs. And no adjustments here from Euphoria either. The good news is with the TP, I mean, they'll absolutely get the advantageous position here on the objective.
Also, I think that this composition
is going to be a little tricky.
This composition is also better against Sigma because you don't have to. You can run at pressure here with the Reinhardt, right? Once that assault.
It's one of the rush comps that works against Sigma because you don't have that accretion to worry about.
Yeah.
As long as he sometimes is shield right.
And on top of that, once the configuration assault it elapses, I mean,
that's really early from RK, and Heesung just gets behind cover. TP may be a bit early too from Euphoria, but it's not the most important resource they have, and with Spin falling, they're still looking pretty fine here. Pressure onto the objective, RK really low already with the immortality field gone. It feels like a matter of time before JNGK lose their hold on this fight. Pressure, I'm kind of hoping for a swap, honestly. I know he's already 70% of the way to the Gravitic Flux, so he might hold on to this, but re-entering with this comp feels like a nightmare.
I mean, and really, who are you going to capture in the Gravitic Flux, right? That's the other thing too. Just because you have an ultimate doesn't mean it's a good ultimate. And I listen, you're sort of sunk cost fallacy, I suppose, but this flux
There's
is
a reason
massive.
it's a fallacy.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, Spin's on an angle here. Already the Ant Matrix used. That's not bad for JNGK. They'll lose a bit of time to that. They can't lose Spin. Spin, you can't take this fight right now. You've got to get out. There's a health pack there. You need to grab it and survive. Good work. Excellent work. Now, with the Ant Matrix to re-engage, Euphoria really don't have an option to step up, and Minute gets caught out. Didn't expect that angle on the assault. Spin does eventually die, but I'd say it's all fine. It comes out in the wash for JNGK as long as they survive this artillery. Oh no! Oh no! Oh no!
And RK's too weak. This fight's over. I mean, you're gonna get 10. What is it? 15% on that? Oh, that is rough. That is very.
I'm not sure I've
rough.
ever seen a desperation artillery strike work so well from a bastard.
Pressure, I mean, your shield is gone, your kinetic grasp is gone, you're half HP, you're not a swift-moving hero. Yeah, you're very vulnerable, especially when caught in a corner, like Pressure was. Oh, we're gonna see a Flux Blade combo, aren't we?
No, the Flux comes first. Okay, I thought it whiffed for a second. At least Sunjin gets hit by it, but he's got more than enough healing to keep himself up. The Gravitic Flux that we've been waiting for really doesn't get squat, and the Blade even withers away because of the sound barrier. I mean, eventually one gets found. Is that going to be enough? That is the most important pick, and Pressure finds the second. So JNGK find their way into the fight finally.
That was, and honestly, if the thing there is that JNGK were not playing as a team, right? Off and Tampa were off in a corner by themselves. The beat only hits 2. No one else could come in and kite the blade away. So really, it was more of a split push by JNGK than anything else.
Wow. Pressure really wanted to get Heesung there. That felt personal. TP is available here too.
Yeah.
You have to be a little bit careful.
Yeah, they do. And I mean, also for JNGK, well, the problem for JNGK is they don't have anything, right? They need to get tampered to this Ant Matrix very, very quickly. Because Euphoria, once they get out into the open, that just opens up, the entirety of the team. Oh, wow. They get to the point first. This is not great.
And they hide behind the drum too. That high ground advantage completely nullified. JNGK have to drop down into an Earth Shatter. What damage too, but an Immortality Field keeps them up. Excellent work by Tamper there, and Sierra falls. That's the majority of the damage gone. Heesung lasered away. And JNGK keep it moving. They keep that percentage racking up. And despite a bit of a slow start on Sanctuary, they're now in the position to win this map.
Another misplay by Euphoria, though. Minutes Photon Berry just too late. And they're trying to peek out into the open against a Bastion in an Ant Matrix, right? There's no need to take that fight. JNGK are being given an opportunity once again. And again, that was a fight that Euphoria invested in, so they don't really have anything for this last setup.
Bit of a Hail Mary on that artillery strike, too. Hard to get a pick with that ever. Oh, man. RK trying to use his own, realized that Euphoria have TP'd up. Oh, well, I just gotta throw this out. It's fine, though. Here comes a blade. Already won. Search fall, I think, is not a perfect trade for JNGK, but they've got a sound barrier to keep this moving. And I think, wait, did Search Ajax that? Was that the blade for the Ajax?
Yes.
Or did I miss it? I mean, either way, things aren't looking good for Euphoria, especially as a second round of the assault configuration comes up for RK. Eventually, Heesung will fall, and JNGK will take Busan.
I mean, a bit of a misstep from Euphoria there on round number 2. That was theirs to lose. It really was theirs to lose, but they did, in fact, lose it. JNGK pays attention to, the overstepping of bounds by Euphoria. Now, keep in mind, not a close round number 1. That was all JNGK, just very good read and kind of playing around the map, making sure that Euphoria does not get to play where they want to. But then on the second round, taking advantage of just overstepping your bounds, and JNGK, they take a lead here in on Control.
And you can see the difference between having to attack with that Sigma and like getting the advantageous position up at pressure looked so good once the Reinhardt was moving into him rather than him having to move into the Reinhardt and the Bastion and all of these nightmarish things to push into. Even with the shield. The Kinetic Grasp too is generally good into the Bastion. So not half bad stuff from JNGK. A solid start to the series for sure.
And the question is now, can they keep it up? Because I think it's not that Euphoria is like so far behind. And the thing about Euphoria is that they're very explosive once they get to a map type that really favors them.
True.
They get to switch roles around quite a bit. We'll see how well they get to do that on map number 2 when we return from this break.
JNGK off to a solid start behind pressure on the tank line as we finish up Busan with a 2-0 victory for them. First round, pretty close.
Yeah.
Second, not so much. And I feel like that's probably the 8th time that we've said that about a control map that went 2-0 this season. Haven't even played 8 control maps. But nonetheless, as per the norm, we head on to Hybrid.
Yeah, this is, oh man. It's so tough to talk about map number 1 though, because like, Euphoria should have won that second round, despite it not being close. They should have won it. They misplayed their hands so badly, which, in fairness, has really been the definition of Euphoria this season.
Wow, we're just changing the definition of Euphoria now? Dang.
Well,
I don't know.
I mean Euphoria, the team.
The dictionary might have something to say about that, but we'll get it sorted.
Yeah, Sunjin is playing support. Sunjin has played tank. Their composition is, they're not getting value.
Sunjin hasn't won a map off-rolling either. That's a key note as we keep... And he's such a good DPS player too, right?
Yeah.
Like a tracer that can take over the game. He really found some flexibility too when he went into NA Contenders. So it is...
I'm not critiquing his skill, by the way, right? I
think he is a skilled player. It's just he's a skilled player in DPS.
Also, the team, it's not Sunjin misperforming either on those roles. It's that he
did fine on BAP.
Yeah, he did fine on BAP, and he did fine on Doomfist relative to what a Doomfist can do in the current meta, right? That is the other problem. It's that the styles that Euphoria are choosing to play just don't really avail themselves to success just in general, right? And I mean, a ton of credit to JNGK because they found, there were a couple of fights where, Minute on that photon barrier was, if that had come out and he'd stayed alive both times, that would have been a difference maker in the fight. Instead, he's eliminated and, that withers away the value of the photon barrier. So JNGK have been quick to take advantage of mistakes that were being made by Euphoria.
Yeah, they're great.
And I think that's been a pleasant surprise for me just overall this season. JNGK coming in, I wasn't expecting the world from them, right? I thought they would be a solid team, but with pretty...
I think they're beyond solid at this point.
Exactly.
And into, pretty good.
Yeah.
I enjoy watching JNGK play.
Yeah.
Even with this sort of, slightly off-meta DPS, right? Like, you think of, Bastion, it's going to be run with a Sim, right? Yeah. No, the Genji comes in for Spint instead. And honestly, I really enjoy the Genji look from Spint, right? You don't get those same, teleport plays. You don't get the same sort of pressure on the enemy tank because, the Sim beam charging up is so insane. And you don't get the same defensive capabilities in the photon barrier, but Spint is able to just keep so much constant pressure on the backline. And like, you know, we talk about the term pressure for a lot as we go on to Blizzard World for our map number 2. But you have to keep in mind, when you are taking damage, your mind thinks differently, right? Like the actual anxiety of, oh, I can't afford to die here, does force mistakes, or at least force uncomfortable positions from a lot of players. So Spint's little, I don't want to say off meta because it's not truly a hard meta, but his unique flavor in this patch really helps JNGK succeed.
Yeah, and I mean the other part of that is that it just takes attention away from elsewhere, right? If you're a support player and you're forced to duel a Genji, that's healing that or damage that you are not applying outwards, right? It's just a different focus of attention, and you know, JNGK make a great use of it. Now you flip over to the map set, and for the first time this season, we head to Blizzard World, and I think this is really now cemented Euphoria. If the role selection shenanigans earlier hadn't, this map does. Euphoria is just here for chaos. They are here to make everything just a little bit more spicy.
Euphoria started as Rhodes, which started as a Contenders China team. And there's absolutely nobody from that roster on this team, and yet I still feel that kind of chaotic flavor. Here, Euphoria on the defense, running Doomfist. And it's not Sunjin. He's over onto the Bastion now. Instead, it's Heesung picking up the Doomfist as Naranged and Aster gets subbed in for the support role. Honestly, of a lot of the compositions we've seen Euphoria run recently, this is my favorite.
Yeah, I will also highlight, by the way, the only player that is staying the same from last map is Heesung. Both supports are different. Both DPS are different.
Shout out.
Sunjin was in, but on support, so it doesn't count.
Meanwhile, JNGK not making many differences. They won't. They have a very stable lineup here.
Ooh, okay.
Wow, even keeping themselves onto the Sigma. I kind of like this, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, Heesung can't go in for free, right?
Yeah.
That's the, and
even be wary of that accretion.
Well, here's the other part, right? You want to use the power block to kind of defend against the Bastion, but when the Sigma's up, you know, that is you can't just hold power block in front of a Sigma when when that power block is up, right? So.
Ooh. Really nice turn here onto Spint. Spint, who, like we talked about, really keeps his eyes on the backline, is really a true flanker. Euphoria collapse when he overextends. Now they double back. And there's not much JNGK can do from here. I mean, Sunjin survives the configuration assault from RK, and that's that first push done and dusted.
Yeah, I mean, remember what I said about not being able to use the power block in front of the Sigma? Well, I guess you just used it behind his back, so... RK shoots down, Heesung empowers him, and Pressure is looking the wrong direction. And that combo means that Euphoria get a full up. That's also, by the way, the most confident fight we've seen from Euphoria all day, despite a couple they won on map number 1.
Yeah, they really had a game plan going into that one.
Yeah. This time, though, Spint will stay alive, so first contact is 5v5.
And you can see how respectful Heesung is, too, on this roll. Oh, can't quite get over to protect Naranged, but Naranged able to get up onto the high ground swiftly. Sunjin, too, punishing the backline in onto off and tamper. This is looking excellent from Euphoria. I'm loving their positions, their rotations.
They do give up a tick and a half, but you know, I'll trade that for a fight
fine.
win. Yeah, exactly.
2 minutes in, you've given up 1 tick.
Also,
great.
Can I take a moment to see? Remember, we were critiquing the Doomfist composition day 1 with Euphoria, but that was because they were not playing like this. This looks like a team playing together. It's not one person going in isolated and dying on cooldown. Euphoria actually are playing as a team, and JNGK don't really seem to have a response to this.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Euphoria thus far really understanding the ebb and flow of this comp and when they can push in for a pulse. Almost gets RK, but at least taking the immortality field. That means JNGK, there's no way they're pushing into an Ant Matrix right now. They cannot do that, and they'll lose Spint because of it. He's isolated over by the Griffin ride once again. Pressure pretty low, but at least is staying alive. JNGK, they're running out of time.
I will say, though, that was very expensive for Euphoria to get 1 elimination, right? That's 3 ults for 1. Now JNGK have an opportunity, and Spint has been a hero in the past with his Dragon Blade. Will have to do so once more.
It's 3 cheap ults, though, so Euphoria, I mean, they keep the one that really matters, which is the Kitsune Rush. Now used immediately, too. JNGK given no angle in. Heesung thinking about where he wants to take this Meteor Strike. Just uses it to reposition, sees pressure, wants to go behind him into the backline. Nice block from off. That keeps Heesung from accomplishing much of anything in that power block. Yeah, like you said, you can't use it in front of pressure, and accretion tees him up. JNGK, nearing up to 2 ticks here. EUPHORIA, will they dare to re-engage, or will they be given a chance? Played into the backline. Oh, pretty low here, but eventually Spint finds his mark, and JNGK find the first point.
Yeah, and again, they might be cheap ultimates in terms of their generation, how much value they have, but I mean, economy of scale is still a thing.
Still ults.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not having 3 of them is still much worse than having them. And JNGK, the other thing too is that despite coming into that fight, against the Kitsune Rush, they don't use anything. The Dragon Blade is more of a cleanup thing than anything else, because again, that last kill onto the Baptiste happens after the point is captured, keep in mind. So JNGK, a real opportunity to snowball this point, the second point, in their favor.
And I mean, if EUPHORIA had to be careful how they engaged before against Gravitic Flux and Rally, they have to second guess themselves even more now. Taejong just making his presence known, keeping JNGK's heads turned. He has a pulse bomb, he's thinking about it. Off doesn't want to give him an angle. And with Heesung gone, I wouldn't love to see the pulse bomb now. It gets thrown out regardless to try and turn the fight. Not the end of the world, certainly for EUPHORIA, but it will be the end of this fight as the rest of their team is getting pushed to the brink. Although, as I say that, Ant Matrix to try and turn this around. Heesung coming back from spawn. Oh, such a low, but he survives. Great peel. Naranged and Aster putting in overtime.
Now it's Tamper's turn though to flip the script, as the Ant Matrix on the cart is just a little bit better. No one can contest.
Ooh, Taejong and Sunjin teaming up. This is the synergy we wanted to see. Now a Kitsune Rush to contest the objective too, and Tamper, I mean, surely there's no way he's able to accomplish much here. Look at Taejong, he's completely uncontested, just farming Pulse Bomb charge off of JNGK as they leave their tank and have to leave this fight.
Yeah, that is, what a recontest by EUPHORIA. That was a really good Kitsune Rush by Aster. I mean, the first one that we saw from him, not super highlight worthy. Here, it's in prime position that everyone from EUPHORIA could take full benefit. And I mean, the cooldown reduction plus the damage speed or the attack speed increase for Sunjin especially is such a difference maker in that fight. And JNGK, where it was looking good for them, just kind of snowball, don't get value out of their resources. And this time, Spint needs a Dragon Blade that is actually going to find eliminations. Easier said than done, certainly against as mobile a team as EUPHORIA.
Off so low, but will be able to survive the Pulse Immortality field already used. That's a critical defensive cooldown, but JNGK, they'll peel into the side room and try to survive. So much damage by that artillery, but a pick is what EUPHORIA really wanted to ensure they'd take this. They're keeping JNGK on their toes, but will they be able to survive once JNGK actually push out? That blade, again, is a nightmare, and Ant Matrix is used to garner some space and even eliminate Heesung. EUPHORIA now trying to scatter, trying to separate, not give JNGK a way to finish them off, I should say. Aster behind too. I mean, EUPHORIA have actually surrounded JNGK, but they need somebody to get to the objective. Heesung back pretty quick. He can stand toe-to-toe for a moment, but with Aster, Taejong, nearly falling. He'll just barely survive. Nice peel, nice work. Hold on, EUPHORIA, they found their footing.
And that is, and this is now, a haphazard approach by Spint. The blade will be one, but not enough, and the hold will come through. EUPHORIA has been so good at dividing attention. It's
night and day.
It really is. The thing there from JNGK is it's a very smart play to start that up, right? Ant Matrix on the high ground. They even get first pick in that fight, right? Remember, Heesung was eliminated at the start of that fight. The problem, though, is that JNGK don't have a critical mass on the objective. Then it gets traded for Spint, again, because of that sort of surround and conquer. You're not really facing down one player at any time, and as soon as you turn to deal with one person, right, Taejong, for example, blinks out of existence, and Sunjin's the next one you're looking for in a 180. It's just so difficult to kind of turn your head on a dime that swiftly, and EUPHORIA make the most of it as they get that hold on the final moments of second point of Blizzard World.
Even comparing this composition from like the Doomfist specifically compared to how EUPHORIA ran Doomfist last week, it looks like a tank player versus a DPS player, right? Yeah. Last week, Sunjin, he had some cool plays. He wasn't playing poorly, but it looked like he wanted to, get in, deal a lot of damage, get a ton of picks. Heesung is playing this like a tank. He's controlling space. He's getting into the backline when he knows he can. He's falling back when he knows he needs to regroup with his team. An excellent start for EUPHORIA and a very winnable map.
Man, EUPHORIA are just there are two teams in EUPHORIA, I have to say.
To get such euphoric highs, They find their way to such interesting lows. Honestly, I'm starting to enjoy it. Starting to, I say. I always enjoy it, but
No surprises.
let's see how they make it work on the attack.
No surprises here again. Actually, I think the interesting thing is their target in this one is. I mean, oh, Spin. You have to stay alive here.
Spin.
This is an interesting aside. Taejong has in a meta like this, Tracer is not a carry player, which is what Taejong was the last time we saw him in Contenders, right? However, against this composition JNGK is running specifically, he can in fact dual Spin and just make. Just open up the rest of EUPHORIA and sort of keep the supports in survivable in Acer and Narang, right? They can do heal.
Spin, dude.
Yeah.
He can hardly find time to play the game with how much damage he's taking. Anyone on EUPHORIA is like looking at him anytime he shows up anywhere. Look at this. Taejong, now he'll double back. Try to lead into pressure there. Nice stick! Oh, RK didn't have a way out of that one. No immortality field, so a pick that EUPHORIA very much needed. Spins in some trouble, but thankfully has a deflect. Gets down to Off, who gives him an armor pack and now wants to go back up and take care of Narang. Narang jumping around though, hard to pin down. This fight has become all over the place, and suddenly EUPHORIA have found a tick. They found Spint. That's their entry. I mean, JNGK, where have they ended up? They're split across the objective, and Off doesn't have anyone to cover him as pressure is ill-equipped to handle two players diving onto one support at once.
The thing is, this composition that EUPHORIA is running is all about sort of individual pop-off sort of scenarios, right? And then anytime you try and deal with one player, another player kind of, comes in and takes attention away from you. But that means that if you fall into chaos, you're falling into their game plan. JNGK need to play cohesive, need to play together, and EUPHORIA simply aren't letting them, as they, I mean, without really much effort at all, take that first point.
Spin with the blade.
I mean, JNGK with everything, really.
Difference maker like we've seen before. Quite a bit of damage already. Pressure so low. Okay, Sunjin on the low ground while the Amp Matrix is up top. That gives RK a pretty significant advantage. Heesung repositioning with the Meteor Strike, but he's not able to do anything more with it. He has to fall back here. Try to survive. I mean, okay. Managed to get around that stall, and Taejong falling means EUPHORIA have to regroup.
I mean, one of the benefits of the Sigma is really that kinetic grasp, right? We still saw it in that last fight. Sunjin is shooting into a... Ooh. Yeah, no, that's...
Oh, that was close.
That's
Those supports using everything they had. A blade is pretty free now. Sure, it's pressure showing up in the kill feed, but make no mistake, it's Spin to putting in the work.
Good combo. That's it. I also like the delayed combo there, right? That the Gravitic Flux is used first. Wait till everything's expired, then have the Dragon Blade come in after.
Yeah.
Still, I mean, now is where it gets a little bit interesting because the sort of punching potential that JNGK has expired. Again, you're not trapping anyone with the artillery strike against this composition specifically on EUPHORIA. So how do you react to this fight now that you have no ultimates to kind of keep through?
Man. I thought for a second the accretion that hit Heesung pulled out his power block, but no, he gets away with a sliver of health. Taejong behind, same with Aster here, trying to keep JNGK's mind occupied. They fight a war on two fronts now, so they'll have to cede some space. They try to double back into Aster, who lays down the Kitsune Rush for just him and Taejong. I mean, a lot of damage, sure, but the majority of it, Sunjin falls by the wayside. A rally to keep JNGK strong in this choke too, and a Meteor Strike's not enough to punch through. Acer hitting some nice shots, and Heesung surviving for the moment. Can he find this onto RK? Yes! And that's the difference maker.
That is the difference maker. Not a moment too soon either, because time is sort of running out. Recall that they have to get through past the pylon terrace into nearly the second checkpoint, and we know how much of a choke point this, this archway can be. Still, I mean, remarkably cheap of a fight for EUPHORIA. It realistically just the Kitsune Rush in tow. And Taejong, I mean, the game on his hands with this Pulse Bomb if he gets a pick off.
Oh, I mean, that's a lot of group too. Okay, I mean, the Immortality Field used, not bad. Any stretch of the imagination, but it's a small window that EUPHORIA grant themselves. They have to try and pile in the damage now. Get JNGK on the back foot instead. They're the ones retreating. Heesung, I mean, slowly worn away, torn apart. Taejong answers back, but I mean, a tank for your DPS, especially when Sunjin's caught in the Gravitic Flux, it's a trade you'll take every day of the week.
Now it's just actually the slow eliminations are really bad for EUPHORIA as well, because remember they entered into this point with 4.5 minutes. It's now down to 90 seconds in this instance. And again, EUPHORIA use resources. They use the Ant Matrix. They use again a Pulse Bomb. Although Taejong has built up to another one in the meantime.
And Sunjin's over onto the Ashe now too. I mean, this is a little bit of a Hail Mary pick. You're hoping for a pick, some headshots to team up with Taejong, I suppose.
Now defensive utility is kind of the name of the game, right? You need to stretch this Suzu and the Immortality Field to deal with this Dragon Blade and the Ant
Look how much of a
Matrix.
struggle Sunjin and Narang are having. I mean, Kitsune Rush gets laid down on the objective, but a rally answers it. There's not enough damage. Nobody is able to group up. That Kitsune Rush is not going to be used by anyone other than Taejong, and there's nobody for him to even fire at. So one of the most powerful ults doesn't get much value out of it, and with a blade already in the backline, I mean, it's only one, it's only Sunjin, but a 5v4 gives JNGK quite a bit of room to work with. Narang falls with just barely 20 seconds left for EUPHORIA to try and get one last fight.
Yeah. I mean, you're kind of happy that that was the blade that was used, though, because now you actually have a chance to force a fight on the objective. I will say the critical thing is they have to get RK away from this Ant Matrix. Because RK, I mean, just the raid boss in this instance, sitting up on high. Someone needs a touch.
Okay.
Got there.
Yisung baited me in there. I wasn't sure he was close enough, but he makes it happen. Meteor Straw!
Oh, come on. Come. Oh well.
It's okay. It's fine. Well, it's not okay for you.
No.
Actually, they're down 0-2 now. Okay. I mean, it's not like they were destined to win that fight.
Touch the point.
It doesn't. Our observers do a really good job of highlighting just how unfortunate that C9 was. I mean, that's a well and true C9.
Well, the other problem too is it's a
organic.
miscommunication from EUPHORIA, right? It's again them just not being on the same page. Taejong and Heesung both go for the touch. That's both recalls taken, right? In that instance, you have to trust that one player whose job it is to get there gets there. Having to use recall and meteor strike to get both touch, that doesn't feel great. That being said, it is now unfortunately match point for JNGK EUPHORIA. Will they have it more in the bank to come back? We'll find out in map number 3.
I, for one, genuinely enjoyed EUPHORIA's play on Blizzard World.
Well, except the last 10 seconds that didn't happen.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't even say 10, right? The last 2 seconds were unfortunate for them. And so unfortunate, the season hangs in the balance, you know? We've had a couple of runs at some reverse sweeps. Neither attempt from early this week has succeeded. EUPHORIA will now need to defy that convention if they want to have a solid chance. We head on to map number 3, Flashpoint. Admittedly, Flashpoint's where we've seen the most quote-unquote upsets this season, I would say.
And I do think it's not like JNGK is so far ahead of EUPHORIA in terms of consistency, right? Or rather the clutch potential. It's just been in certain instances, there's been like 3 fights, especially when you think of Blizzard World, 3 fights in a row where you just can't string together any real value if you're EUPHORIA that ends up costing you the map. As we head to Flashpoint, with how quick the fights go, right? That's the first thing. But both teams have to be active participants in it. In Blizzard World, it really felt like EUPHORIA were the ones taking the fights and JNGK just sort of responding. Here, they will not have that benefit. They will actually have to, come to the fight as swiftly as EUPHORIA does. And if EUPHORIA plays the Doomfist composition as well as they did on Blizzard World, there is a very real chance they can steal this map away.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, we haven't seen Zero really alternate to any of those really high tempo compositions, right? You think of dive comps, you think of rush comps, right? They've been a little bit more stable than that, favoring some double flex support looks at some Orisa, and then, of course, the Sigma that we've seen. So, an opportunity for EUPHORIA to get their foot back in the door of this series, but an opportunity that they'll have to take and then run with. They'll have to open the door with their foot and then just sprint into the building as fast as they can.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, EUPHORIA is no stranger to a map 5. They've already done it once this season. Just do it again, but this time win the map 5.
Just win your matches. Yeah. That's how you win. Crazy. top level analysis.
Listen, when it comes to Euphoria, I'm allowed to have that because sometimes they just choose to play the wrong thing, and it's not my fault that they do that.
On the bright side, as we head into Flashpoint, our map number 3, we're going to take a look at the map. It is Suravasa. And it looks like they haven't swapped Sunjin back over to DPS to support or tank. So already a better start than worst case scenario.
I'm curious as what their comp is going to be here. Weirdly, for the first time all season long, I actually did like that Doomfist look.
Kind of like the Doomfist. Yeah. Heesung was playing it very admirably.
Yeah.
And with the Sigma almost unplayable on Suravasa, you have to imagine, Doomfist has a chance to shine.
It does. I mean, we touched on this the last time we saw JNGK, or we saw Euphoria, rather. They have clearly practiced the Doomfist composition, right? This is not something they just picked up on a whim, but it just wasn't working in that game due to a combination of awkward engages and not really getting a chance to have Sunjin spin up, playing again like that DPS Doomfist rather than a tank. Now with Euphoria, there's a chance that they can keep it going. We do have a couple substitutes though. Sierra coming in for Taejong and Search returning for Acer.
For the first time this series, it seems like we're going to get a mirror composition between these squads. Sierra comes in so that Sunjin can get off of the Bastion and instead get onto the Genji. Sunjin's Genji, excellent by the way. If there was one tool to really shut down Spint, I would give it to this.
Well, gates unlocked. We head into market for point number 1. I truly believe that there are like 6 different Euphorias within Euphoria.
Quite an array of teams within just, well, I was going to say 5 players, but actually they have a really big roster. Nice little dive here too from Sunjin. Already tons of pressure on the backline, but Sierra falling first makes things tricky. Euphoria, they need to find another angle into this, and meanwhile, Search ain't having too much fun, neither is Sunjin. And that's the first point. Going over to JNGK for the moment.
That's such a comfortable fight win for JNGK. I mean, the big thing is that they use the immortality field correctly. RK, you could see, was like so very low as Sunjin came around the corner, but was bolstered by, that invulnerability long enough to get Sierra, who did not benefit from the same.
Euphoria have to find their way back in here now.
And it's,
an unenviable task against the Bastion.
And it's also so hard to set your own Bastion up for success when you're looking through these really, really tight archways without having to walk into the opponent.
A lot of cover for JNGK to whisk themselves away behind. RK, sees the Javelin spin used, and as soon as that's down, he knows that he can pump in tons of damage. Euphoria, though, they do a good job of evading that and now have a chance to re-engage here. Sunjin coming back. Wow, using the dash just to set up with the Ant Matrix. I actually really like that. Coordinated team play is what nearly won Euphoria that map number 2, and it's what will give them another lease on this first point.
This is... They have to be, pretty quick though, because wait, hold on, they're not out of this yet, actually.
It's a little dicey, but no, okay, it's fine. 99% though, doesn't give much room to breathe.
And it's not like JNGK overinvested in that fight either, right? Like they used just what Euphoria did to extend that to the overtime. So it's going to be mark for mark as that next setup comes through. And one of the ways you can mitigate all the damage coming in, to bypass that choke point is the fact that you've got sound barrier, right? So despite the fact is you're going to have the ability to kind of just walk into the point and have the fight in the open area where it's about even.
And Sunjin's play doesn't get much, but at least pulls the sound barrier out from Euphoria. Oh my word, that's a mess! A mess that Euphoria enjoy, though. Yeah, they come out on top of that one.
But there is another contest available on the objective, right? That is the other thing, too, is that was a very quick fight from JNGK, giving themselves a chance to actually get into the final fight. And, again, they will have a more, a quicker ultimate, or a better ultimate in a chaos environment. Sierra is going to have to try and wait till they get... Either he's going to use it in the choke point as they walk in, which, okay, that's what he's doing. I don't think it's going to get any eliminations, though.
Oh, I mean, it puts a lot of damage into RK. And it keeps Narang pretty far back. Oh, Spin, that's not the angle he wanted. Sunjin, I mean, I know you're good. You shouldn't face check the enemy blade, though. Spin, yeah, he'll punish you for that one, buddy. Oh, no. The way Sunjin dashed in, I thought he had a blade of his own for a second. Arcade does fall, but with Heesung gone, JNGK having the objective control. So close for Euphoria.
I mean, that's just
but it's 100 for JNGK.
That is just the sort of the story of Euphoria in this game. In the final fight, in the final moments of an engagement, misreading the approach. The other way you can play that fight, right, is use the artillery strike when everyone's on the objective, when they have to contest for overtime. That puts a lot more pressure onto Spin to actually have an aggressive blade. Instead, they waste time trying to prevent them from touching, and that just allows JNGK in. And I mean, one elimination is good for, you know, good to turn it over when you don't have to trade. Now, as we head into the second fight, I mean, this time it's point control again with an Ant Matrix for JNGK. They just have a better setup here.
Yeah, still a matching of ultimates here by our two teams. Oh, and Off finds the perfect boop. Keep in mind, this guy used to be a primarily flex support player, has started on the Lucio on this season, and is looking pretty all right on it, dare I say. That boop on Narang, that's tough.
I mean, that fight was always going to be tough for Euphoria. Low ground with JNGK on point control, right? I mean, you just have to favor RK through the Matrix in that one. So the other thing too is the Sigma being a difference maker, kinetic grasp, and the shield is a double up compared to just the javelin spin from Heesung.
And yet another difficult entry here, especially with the gravitic flux in Pressure's pocket. He'll pop it already. Seems like he got something, but hard to tell what. The sound barrier keeps JNGK dancing regardless of the damage, though. And Off is just a menace. Oh, it's just a menace. I don't think that was off the map, but still hilarious to see.
Is Heesung
JNGK,
switching?
it was close first point, but now they're dominant.
I mean, and surely Heesung is switching. That was a desperation Terror Surge. At half HP, I might add. That's another thing actually about the shield that is underappreciated. You can save your teammates if they overstep their welcome, right? We saw it right there where Spin has to dash back in and the shield just, you know, any tertiary damage is prevented. And because that fight was so, because JNGK played space so well, they're actually going to get back into into Palace to contest. They won't have point control, but again, they will have an ability to take a more, they'll be able to surround the objective to take a more opportune fight for them rather than waiting for the point to unlock.
Smart from Euphoria, at least, to cede that second objective. They know it was a lost cause, and they didn't want to lose pacing here. Here comes the blade.
Ajax.
Search down. Oh, he Ajax the beat midair as the blade cuts it before any music can grace Euphoria's ears. A third point cap first for JNGK.
And that was the only thing Euphoria had. To have it lost so passively there, that's just tough. It's the right pick by Spin, by the way. Just focus the one player who actually has to use an ult to respond to you as they're kind of wall riding around. And they have no chance, Surge has no chance to even touch the ground. He's just caught out, so.
Desperate artillery strike here does a lot of damage to Pressure. That gives you an avenue, but you got to take advantage. You got to find a way to finish off Pressure and RK. One does fall, but he trades for the tank, and that's pretty valuable for JNGK. Sunjin trying to put in the work. He'll get rid of most of the healing of JNGK, and slowly but surely, JNGK are being eliminated. They're taken down. One more fight will get them in comfortable territory, but Euphoria have control for now.
I mean, you could tell that JNGK think that they're comfortable with that one because Off does not actually use the sound barrier to try and clutch that fight up. They're waiting for a reset to come back in as a team. And I mean, Spint with that elimination onto Sunjin have just cracked this point wide open and likely, in fact, the game for JNGK because you do not have that forward pressure of the Genji to take space. It's all onto Sierra to be the threat, and instead they just have to vacate the point.
Yeah. Euphoria get 33%, but now they're going to have to win 2 more fights. A sound barrier immediately as JNGK press the issue and completely ignore Sunjin's blade and dominate Euphoria. I don't even think there's another good chance here. Euphoria are just getting chewed to bits. A tasty meal for JNGK to usher them not only into a win, but likely into playoffs as well. Congratulations, JNGK. Your season is extended.
3-0 as well in map score, and what a dominant statement performance here on Flashpoint. JNGK come in this season, by the way, as a somewhat retooled roster, and have really made a name for themselves here. And I mean, their goal coming into today was to make sure that they kind of clinch playoffs ahead of having to fight Dreamers. Mission accomplished.
Yeah, you don't want your playoffs hopes relying on one of the strongest teams in Contenders' career right now. And JNGK take down a team that we also had pretty high expectations for. EUPHORIA, a lot of this roster back from the Overwatch League knockouts, right? And JNGK, they put him to bed. Nighty-night, you tucked in. Have a nice little bedtime story. JNGK, an excellent showing here today. They deny the curse that can be Flashpoint 2. Don't give any room, not even an objective, over to EUPHORIA. Really solid play. JNGK looked very comfortable.
Yeah, and I mean, we've already seen Flashpoint be a tripping point, a stumbling point for some of our teams. In the top end even, to have JNGK come in with a thought process that is so swiftly implemented. I mean, they opened up on the Orisa, don't like how it kind of rolled out, makes the switch over to the Sigma, and continue to dominate. Now we take a look at our player of the match, and I mean, Spint has been dueling as the first or second best Genji in this region this season, based almost entirely on his style, and what a style it is, a big part of this 3-0 victory.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, his blades aren't necessarily as consistent as what we were just seeing in our last series, but his neutral game is fantastic. His movement is amazing, and the way that he systematically leaps from target to target, really something to behold. I mean, look at this. Sunjin even swaps over to the Genji this map because he thinks to himself, okay, I've got a really good Genji, which Sunjin does, to be fair. I can take it to Spint, right? Nah, not even close. Look at the target selection for Spint. He knows the most important pick to find in every fight.
Yeah. And I mean, I think one of the things that sets Spint apart from a lot of other Genjis is his movement. We talked about this in their last match, actually, where pressure was on Zarya. Just understanding how best to take value out of it here without a Zarya to protect him with those bubbles. It's all neutral game, and he rarely takes damage, lethal or otherwise. And again, just a fantastic performance. Regardless, this is how our day has shaped up. FM unfortunately eliminated. EUPHORIA, the same is true. And in fact, a mirror of yesterday in the score lines at that. What a day.
Yeah, I mean, we script writers need to come up with something else. An attempt reverse sweep into a 3-0. Come on. Can't do that 2 days in a row. FM, EUPHORIA, unfortunately, well, EUPHORIA get to play one more game. They'll get a, well, I can't call it a victory lap, but they'll get a lap against Lemix tomorrow. Or tomorrow? Yeah, no, not tomorrow. That'll be Thursday. That'll be the next day. But at least for Zero and JNGK, their playoff hopes are secured now. And JNGK, technically speaking, could even get as high. Well, actually, technically speaking, they could get as high as first. That seems kind of unlikely. They could, if they manage to do really well against Dreamers. There's a world in which they pass SPG. They got to beat Dreamers, but that's not easy. But honestly, I'm starting to feel this JNGK roster. They are impressing me for sure this season.
Yeah, the reason, the most impressive thing is just how collected they've been, right? Raw mechanics is something that is a baseline expectation in this region.
Yeah.
And all the teams have that. What sets the good teams apart from the bad teams and what sets the great teams apart from the good teams is how well they perform as a team. JNGK really stepping up to that marker at this point in the game. Here's how your Wednesday is going to be shaping up. Tomorrow is our 3, in fact. There's that sort of consolation game between Lemix and EUPHORIA in the final day. But, I mean, some absolute bangers.
You don't want to be late tomorrow.
No.
You got to be here right at the starting time. It's 1 a.m. Pacific, 4 a.m. Eastern, folks, because SPG versus Dreamers is going to be the match of the night, going to be an absolute banger.
And it likely will decide who is first place in Group B, right? I mean, barring JNGK performing some heroics towards the end of the season. But, I mean, SPG has not looked comfortable, despite being undefeated at the top of their bracket, or, towards the top of their group, have not looked comfortable. Dreamers, a little bit of a shakiness to start their games off, but swiftly recovered. Dreamers, of course, the other team that has been playing a lot more Zarya, just in general. So that makes an appearance as well.
Also, you say a little shakiness to start Dreamers off. They're still yet to lose a map. Here are standings at the end of day 6, folks. You see Zero really playing for that first seed. I mean, that's one of our last matches to actually. Dreamers, JNGK, and Zero Poker Face are both on Thursday. That's going to be very exciting. FM, unfortunately, their season does just barely conclude here, because even if Panthera lose 0-3 to their next opponent, the head-to-head differential does go to Panthera. So actually, unless Revival pull up some crazy things against either Panthera or Poker Face, we actually know all 6 of our teams. We just don't know what order.
That is indeed the case. So, I mean, hey, look, you don't want to miss the last couple of days here in the fall series. And keep in mind, after that, we get into playoffs. So it's not, the action does not stop thereafter. I mean...
Oh, and we lease right into Overwatch League playoffs, too, right?
Yes.
You come back tomorrow, you come back Thursday, you finish up those Hanzo and Kiriko skins, and then you go right into Overwatch League playoffs starting on Thursday, Grand Finals. And then after Overwatch League Grand Finals concludes, then we get to our playoffs and our Grand Finals. Oh, it's such an exciting time. I cannot wait for this week of Overwatch. I'm almost a little bit sad that you and I are off to Toronto. Yep. We won't get to see the insane games tomorrow and the next day.
Well, you'll be on a flight. I will be the one watching, so I'll be there in their viewing as well. I don't want to miss the conclusion of it. I mean, that being said, it's going to be some fantastic faces and voices for you over the next couple of days as we head into the end of group play into playoffs as well. But again, what a tremendous performance today from JNGK, and realistically, a bit of a surprise coming to the season, and I'm looking forward to what they can do in the playoffs.
I'm just waiting for that first actual reverse sweep.
Yeah.
We've been teased twice now.
Surely.
We've got 3 map 5s already.
Yeah.
Which is pretty dope, honestly.
Yeah, after the opening week, which was, or the opening day, excuse me, which was 3-0s, it's been a lot closer since then. So, although my expectation...
I was worried those first 2 days.
Those first 2 days.
Like 3-0.
Yeah. I do think we're going to get back into a couple of maybe one-sided ones coming in the next couple of weeks. We'll see. Or next couple of days, rather. We'll see.
And I think, if anything, that early one-sidedness for a lot of those matches just sort of dictates is dictated by the fact that they were going into a new patch.
Yes.
Right? Nobody really knew what was going to be good on this patch. Even now, there's still teams trying a lot of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And we're, 6 matches into it for most teams. Well, no, 6 days into it. 3 to 4 matches into it for most teams. So it's been a very exciting season so far, and we're not even close to done yet.
Yeah. And I mean, here, the other thing, too, is this is going to be interesting coming into playoffs, right? Because we will have, by the time playoffs rolls around, we will know what the meta is. We'll know what the favorable looks are. The top-end teams will have had a lot more practice on it. Keep in mind, the returning OWL knockout teams into group play hadn't played on this patch in the competitive scene until the first games. So expect the games to get a lot closer, a lot more exciting as we get into the last couple of days here of the group stage.
Yeah, we're 3/4 of the way through our regular season, but there's so much good Overwatch. We'll see you back tomorrow for more Contenders Korea Fall Series.